Hello there guys, this is Rob of Rule of Two Review. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're having a very good day, and I hope you're ready to talk more about Metroid Prime 4. Of course, this past Thursday, we had Nintendo's most recent Nintendo Direct, the last one dedicated to the original Switch, before the big Switch 2 event, which is now days away. Feels absolutely insane to say so. And this was a huge deal. This was a huge Direct because it gave us this fantastic new 3-minute trailer of Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, a ton of gameplay, a ton of insight and hints into some secrets and elements happening with this game. I spent almost 30 minutes breaking it down for you guys, and it turns out I have even more that I want to discuss. So in a sense, what I'm doing today is sort of making like a part 2 to that initial breakdown video that I posted the other day, and it's going to be kind of going over some of the talking points that I did discuss in that first video and maybe recontextualizing them or reanalyzing them, because there's one or two things that I noticed that I didn't necessarily get right or that I maybe didn't bring up properly in that video, and then a couple of other things that I just didn't even get a chance to talk about in that video because at some point it became so long, it's like I gotta wrap this thing up, I'll just make a part 2. It has been really interesting to watch the discussion grow and continue about the game since this trailer, by the way. Reception has been almost entirely positive. I have seen some folks with more negative opinions or some critiques about the game or the gameplay or the trailer, and I actually think I might make a video where I just read some people's critiques and kind of discuss what I think about them and, you know, where I might agree with some of them and where I disagree with some of them. But for the most part, it's been received very, very well because the game looks beautiful. It looks like the perfect sequel to the original 3 games, just made for the modern era. And now we have reason to think that maybe it's also going to be a cross-gen game because they didn't give us the date, so hopefully we get even more information this coming Wednesday at the Switch 2 Direct. It's a really exciting time for Metroid and Nintendo fans, man. I just love this era that we're in. I also just have to say, from a personal perspective, before I now actually jump into the fun stuff you're here for, where I break down some of the secrets and things from this trailer, it is kind of surreal for me to sort of be in this period of the journey of Metroid Prime 4 and also my YouTube channel, right? It's like I kind of realize that I need to stop and take a moment to really like reflect on the fact that, you know, I've been doing YouTube and running this channel for like 11 years, which is a long time, especially considering I never blew up and became like a really big YouTube channel, which is fine because it's not my job or anything. But for, what, 7-8 years of this time, we've lived in a world where we knew Metroid Prime 4 was a game. It was announced in June 2017 at E3 with just the logo, as we all know, and then it was silent until just this past June, like less than a year ago. We knew nothing other than the reboot in 2019. And so I've spent the last 7 to 8 years of my time on YouTube talking about Metroid Prime 4 constantly. If you've been around for any length of time, you know this. I've found plenty of reasons, including podcasting with other good fellow Metroid friends of mine who are on YouTube, just talking about this game, waiting for it, getting excited for it, following every little tiny morsel of anything that felt like news around this game, and just speculating to the ends of the earth about Metroid Prime 4. And now I actually can sit here with you guys and make 20 to 30 minute long videos poring over actual footage of the real game, and a game that we're being told will release this year, the year we're in now. And it's like, for 7 years, this was the dream, to be able to do this, and here I am, finally being able to do this. So it's pretty amazing, and like I said, it feels very surreal, and I just feel, as a Metroid fan, very lucky and happy to be able to be doing this with you guys and sharing in this moment. We get to share in this together, you guys. We've seen footage of this game. Again, for 8 years, we had nothing, and now we have 2 trailers of footage of Metroid Prime 4. We've seen Samus, and it's pretty amazing, and I'm very proud to have been covering this game with 0 information for 7 years, so that I feel like I've earned, so to speak, as have other Metroid YouTubers. We've all earned the ability to sit here and actually do this. So I just wanted to say that. Okay, enough of the mushy stuff. Let's talk about the fun stuff, which is elements of this trailer that we didn't get a chance to talk about last time. Now, one thing I wanted to talk about, and I kind of misheard or misinterpreted what was happening, with this part of the trailer. Because I referenced in my last video, I didn't really have a strong opinion about it, but I definitely phrased it in a way that maybe it sounded like the Galactic Federation sends Samus to this new planet Viewros. But if you listen to the narration, the narrator actually says that she's unexpectedly transported to the planet.
In order to survive and escape this planet that she was unexpectedly transported to.
I think this is important because when we look at these two trailers individually, the initial one from last year in June and this new one from this past week, I feel like we're looking at two different points in this game. And a lot of people had already theorized this anyway, so I'm not adding anything new here, but I do think the new trailer maybe confirms what we all thought. In this first trailer, we see Samus from her gunship. She lands her gunship, which is not present in the new trailer, on this planet. She does not have the thing on her helmet, so I'm going to talk about that. And there's this planetary attack, and she's obviously chasing after Sylux. The space pirates are there. They're stealing this, like, mysterious item that we don't know what this thing does. And then in this new trailer, we see her appear from this, what I'm calling this kind of Terminator little portal thing. She appears on the planet and is suddenly on the planet Viewros. And so I don't think this is a situation where the Galactic Federation sends her there. The narrator says she's unexpectedly transported to Viewros, so I'm assuming in this first trailer, this is the beginning section of the game. The Galactic Federation might have sent her to this planet to go after Sylux to protect this item that the space pirates are stealing. Then she's going to confront Sylux. Something is going to happen. She might lose a battle, which she tends to do in the beginning of some games. Something is going to happen. And she will then get transported to planet Viewros, where the bulk of the game will probably happen. This is an important context to what the story might actually be, because I feel like we might be looking at a situation where Samus is going to come face-to-face with Sylux very early in the game, and whereas I spent most of that last video talking about why I'm really excited to be on one planet in this game, the caveat to that is that I think we will start the planet, or start the journey, start the game on this other planet, the one being attacked in the first trailer from last year, and that is going to set up why she gets, for some reason, unexpectedly transported to planet Viewros, where she will then be probably stuck there until the game ends. And at the end of the game, you fight the last boss, you defeat Sylux, you do whatever you're supposed to do, you save the Laymorn race, that is the inhabitants of that planet, and then she gets to finally leave. So that's probably what's going to happen here. And it's exciting because it mirrors how a lot of the prior 3 Prime console games play out. There's always this, like, introductory section, you know, like the derelict spaceship in Metroid Prime 1, there's Planet Norian in Metroid Prime 3. Once you finish those sections, you then go to the planet or the planets that the actual adventure is going to happen, and I think that that's what these two trailers show us for Metroid Prime 4. Now, I want to talk a lot more about the psychic powers, the scanning that we see her doing, as well as what's going on with her helmet. And again, we discussed this, I discussed this in my last video as well, but there's a little bit more context and some more elements that I actually want to dive deeper into in this conversation. The main thing that I noticed upon watching the trailer even more after my first breakdown is that when she is scanning, I noticed that it looks like she's actually scanning not with the scan visor, but with her psychic powers. For some reason, this didn't click with me when watching it the first, like, 10 times during my initial reaction and then in preparing for my breakdown video the other day. When she scans, she holds out her hand. It looks to me like whenever she's going to use her psychic powers, they activate in such a way that her left hand comes up and is kind of doing almost like a Jedi kind of like position. And when she scans, she brings her hand up to her temple, her left temple, and that's when the scan is activating, when we see her scanning the ancient Laymorn statue in the beginning of this trailer. This to me was a key pivotal element that I wish I noticed in my first breakdown, but there was so much I was taking in, and again, you only have so much time to make a video before it's an hour and a half long. And I can talk about Metroid for an hour and a half, you guys know this. But yeah, I mentioned how in that video it's like, okay, Well, we know she's going to have a scan visor, but we didn't see a hint at any other visors, and so I made this comparison, you know, or laid out really more what's kind of a theory, where maybe she's going to have a scan visor and then all of her psychic powers, and the psychic powers might functionally operate the way visors have operated in prior games. So I was like, one visor and a bunch of scan powers. Or psychic powers, abilities. That was kind of the theory I laid out there. But now I'm realizing that maybe the psychic abilities, and again, still just a theory, so this could all be proven wrong, but maybe the psychic abilities replace visors entirely. Because once I realized, it's like she turned on her psychic power, she's holding her hand out, and then she scans and she goes like this. Maybe I'm misreading it, but it looks like that's what's going on. You know, like my scan is now available, and it's my psychic ability that I've activated to scan the environment. Oh, here's an item I want to scan to understand more. I'm going to scan, and it's like this is her activating, and this action tells us she's using her mind to do it, not the visor she's looking through. Even though there is an overlay of like a visor, you know, the little circular operating sort of animation thing is happening there. And I think it even said the word scanning. But I don't know. I just feel like the function of scanning in Metroid Prime 4, once she gets the helmet with the psychic thing in it, I think it's going to be that's how she's scanning. It's not the traditional scan. It's something correlating to the psychic abilities. This all comes back to my larger theory that in the beginning of the game, on that initial planet where the battle takes place from the first trailer, we see Samus land on that planet again, as I mentioned, without that little... I don't know what I'm even going to call this darn thing. I'm just going to call it the little psychic symbol, right? So the little psychic symbol on her helmet, she doesn't have that. It's a normal Variasuit helmet. Then she's going to go through that section. She's going to lose a battle to Sylux. She's going to suddenly be transported to Viewros. And somewhere in between that time, we have no indication of how or when this is going to happen, but at some point, she's going to change. Something either in her will change, or she's going to be given or discover a new suit or just a new helmet. And this helmet is going to have this psychic symbol in the center of it in the forehead. Like I said, it looks like a third eye, right? Tap into your psychic abilities by opening up your third eye. I feel like there's something Nintendo and Retro Studios are trying to say there. You know, just kind of having fun with that concept. She's going to get this new helmet. This new helmet with this psychic symbol in it allows the wearer or the user, in this case Samus, to use a variety of psychic abilities. As I mentioned in the last video, similar to how the PED suit she's given by the Galactic Federation in the beginning allows her to tap into her Phazon abilities. And so I think once she gets this helmet or this upgrade or whatever is happening here to change what's happening with her helmet, she's going to get this, have this change happen. She's going to suddenly now be able to use or tap into her psychic abilities. There's obviously a variety of psychic abilities. She can control her shot and where she wants it to move. She can use like a telekinesis to move things around. She can grab psychic motes and put them into statues and other items. And apparently she can also scan. So I think it all comes down to when and how and why she gets this new helmet with that psychic symbol in the forehead. Is that something maybe she is given by the Galactic Federation? Is it something that she finds again in that opening planet battle that we assume the first trailer was showing us? Does it have to do with her pursuing Sylux or confronting Sylux early on in the game? Is it something maybe she does actually find on planet Viewros? Maybe she gets transported to planet Viewros first and finds it early on once she realizes she's stuck on this planet. I mean, there's a variety of ways that this could happen. But I want to go back to the PED suit comparison because I think that this is a huge part to this game. In Metroid Prime 3, you spend the first, 15, 20, 30 minutes on planet Norian going through that initial battle. You confront Ridley and you confront Dark Samus and you get overwhelmed with Phazon. And then suddenly you wake up, Samus wakes up, and the Galactic Federation has put her in a PED suit to help control the Phazon corruption she's experiencing. And so after the opening section to Prime 3, you're given the thing that is the hook to Metroid Prime 3. It's the PED suit. It controls the Phazon corruption. it allows Samus to then tap into that phazon within her and use it as a form of attack or puzzle solving or getting through enemies or certain doors and blockades. So that's the thing that happens early in the game, and she is wielding the PED suit throughout the majority of the game after the opening section. And so yes, I think Metroid Prime 4 is going to be following a similar structure. And so after the initial opening section of this game, for whatever reason and whatever the context is, Samus is going to have this new helmet. It's going to allow her to use her psychic abilities and probably find new ones and upgrade the ones she has. And so by the time she's on planet Viewros, the majority of the adventure, she's going to have this helmet and use these psychic abilities just like she had the PED suit for the majority of Metroid Prime 3. Another small thing that I wanted to point out is that there's a couple of shots of what seems to be this like crashed wreckage of some kind of ship, or at one point I thought maybe it was like a mech, like a giant mech or something that was tangled up in some vines and some foliage. I don't know what this means. It kind of reminds me of when Samus comes across the destroyed ship of some Galactic Federation troopers in Metroid Prime 2, and she finds like some archival footage of them being attacked by local enemies on planet Aether. I don't know if that's kind of what they're doing here, but I just feel like it's worth noting that it exists. And there's at least, I think, 2 shots in this newest footage of this, like, what looks like human wreckage or maybe Galactic Federation wreckage. I don't know if this is a sign that there were people here before Samus, or if one of the things she's trying to do is to find people or evidence of what happened. Maybe it's a surprise and she's going to come across other folks on the planet that she didn't know was there. I don't really know what this means, but it's here, and so I just wanted to point it out. Also, we didn't talk about the movement and the fact that Samus, for the first time, seems to have the ability to dash backwards. Now, anyone who's played the prior Metroid Prime games knows you can use the B button to, like, strafe side to side when you're locked onto an enemy. You use that action to just quick zoom, hop left or right, and it gives you a little bit of agility and flexibility when you're locked onto an enemy or a boss and you're fighting it. And we've never had the ability to like dash forward or backwards when doing so, but there is a shot when this thing comes out of this swamp or whatever, and it's trying to whip Samus, and she like hops backwards a little bit. So pretty cool. I don't think it's a massive game changer, but it certainly will make a bit of an impact into how you engage in gunplay in this game. And, you know, keep in mind, Metroid games and Metroid Prime games, they aren't really action games. Yes, you're shooting and fighting enemies, and yes, there are bosses, but it's way more about exploration, puzzle solving, and the adventure than it is about the action. And so these games, I should say, they're not trying to be like Doom 2016 and this new era of Doom that we're in. That's not what they're about. They're meant to be a little bit slower, and you get a couple of things that allows you to do some cool action-like tricks, but that's not really Samus. Yes, she's a badass warrior, but with a few exceptions, like in Metroid Dread and in Metroid Other M, where she does some really amazing, like, hand-to-hand ass kickery, that's not really what these games are, especially the Prime games. So it's just neat to see that they're adding a little bit more variety to her moves and her abilities when she's locked on and engaged in combat. Outside of that, I think it is worth noting, and I've referenced both of these a little bit already in this video, there's no gunship. We did see the gunship in that first trailer from last year, of course. That's how she arrived on whatever that planet is, where she's inevitably going to run into Sylux. There's no gunship in this trailer, and there is no Sylux in this trailer. We see the one Metroid. I mentioned it in my last breakdown. So the Metroid, to me, I feel like is some sort of indication of Sylux, because we see them behind Sylux when he's revealed in that last trailer. So it seems very likely that he's cloning Metroids in an attempt to clone Metroids or recreate Metroids. And again, a lot of this also has to do with where in the timeline this game takes place in. Look, let's be real, guys. We still don't know that. That is still a mystery. And so part of me feels, after seeing this new trailer, that this might actually be taking place directly after Metroid Prime 3, which would be before Metroid 2. And that's fine with me, but I've talked about for a long time, it would be really exciting to me if they placed Metroid Prime 4 at a different point in the timeline. I mean, at any point. It could be after Metroid 2, it could be after Super Metroid, it could be after Fusion, it could be after Dread, you know, somewhere in that timeline, near the end of the timeline. There's a lot of cool things there. Now, if it's after Metroid Dread, we have to consider the fact that she should, in theory, have her Metroid suit, and so I don't think that's the case. This just doesn't give me the aura of Samus having access to that Metroid suit and tapping into her Metroid DNA. I just don't think that's the case. It's the psychic abilities we're dealing with here. It is not the Metroid suit and Metroid DNA abilities. But they could still move it somewhere else, like after Super Metroid or around the time of Metroid Other M or something kind of cool like that. So we don't know. The Sylux thing, the Metroid thing, whatever planet Viewros is and how it fits into the timeline, all of this stuff is still a mystery. Hopefully, with the Switch 2 Direct in just a few days, we'll get some more answers. Because, as a lot of people had theorized, we didn't get the official date. They just said coming 2025. And so it feels like they left a nugget for us to say, oh, they're going to talk about it even further at the Switch 2 Direct. And there's already evidence. Some people have, like, pulled screenshots of some verbiage Nintendo released. I think about that digital card sharing thing. That kind of makes it seem like there will be Switch 2 editions of games. And so there's a lot of reasons to think Metroid Prime 4 will be getting a cross-gen release. A Switch 1 release, a Switch 2 specific release. If that's true, obviously this week they're going to talk about it more at the Switch 2 event. They'll hopefully have more footage. They're going to give us more details and story context. And probably give us a date. Maybe it's going to be the same day that the Switch 2 releases. So it's all very exciting. I would love this week to see Sylux, to get a release date, to understand if there's going to be mouse controls compatible with the Switch 2 version of this game. I feel like that's absolutely going to be something that we learn as well. Maybe see even better graphics than what this game is already showing us, because it is gorgeous on the original Switch. Holy freaking smokes, it looks fantastic. So, yeah. So I think those are my follow-up thoughts to my initial breakdown. Trust me, I've got plenty of other Metroid topics ready to go. I'm not sure if I'm going to wait until after April 2nd to see if we have more, but also after April 2nd, I'll have to talk about the Switch 2 as well as Metroid Prime 4. So much great stuff to talk about right now. What an exciting time to be a Metroid fan and a Nintendo fan and just a video game fan. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Tell me what you think about some of my new details and breakdowns below. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you guys next time.